All right, we are gonna get started. This is weird because I have a new stream setup here. I have my big screen here because I'm gonna present this thing. How's everyone doing? I see we got Chat Test 5 for B, and then we got Astraman here. We have Andy. We have Why So Serious. We have 18 viewers currently. You can see my thing is prepared on my wrist right there. We are ready for this today. Flame's in here. Let me make sure that the Discord actually went through. I'm not posting this on Instagram today. I normally post them to make people see them, but we got Eli in here. Eli is catching the chat. I'm waiting for Sandra to get in here because he said he was going to hop in also. But yeah, I am preparing for Keycon 2025. Hey Arca, how's it going? Email, how's it going? We got people in here. We got Ken. Yep, Discord did send it. But yeah, I'm going to Keycon in DC in like 4 days. I'm doing a presentation there, so I wanted to kind of test it on a stream first to make sure that everything's good and maybe take some notes on it as I do it. And I also want to see if it's like enough time because I have a 45-minute session spot there, so I just want to make sure that it's long enough. But yeah, the way I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do the presentation. I'm not gonna look at chat. So if anyone does jump in and start asking me questions, maybe someone else in the chat tell them that I'm not looking at chat until the end. I will see it on my other screen here, but I just won't respond because I want to see how long this actual presentation is. But with that, at the end, there will be a Q&A. So I think Eli's been waiting for a Q&A. So there is going to be a Q&A at the end. I'm running it just like the actual presentation at the event, how I'm going to do it there. So we have I have no idea how to say your name. Yo, what's up? So we'll just chat here for a few minutes. I'll wait for some people to jump in here because it did just start. Yeah, makes sense, Astro. But I have a nice, that water looks weird. That proportion on that glass looks weird with my hand, but it's like it's a normal glass of water. But I don't know, the angle's maybe weird. Water. Gotta drink water. So yeah, I'm also trying to figure out how I'm gonna run this because right now I'm just running off my phone, which works fine. It's just a keynote. If I switch over here, this is the presentation, so you can see the intro of it. But I'm probably gonna bring my iPad or laptop to the actual thing and do that. I will also record it, so I'm gonna record the actual talk there. Will there be a Google form for the Q&A? No, the Q&A is just going to be at the end of this. Just ask questions. We got another hydro homie. Yeah, trying to hydrate. It's actually been quite hot out. It's 72 right now, but it was 80 or 90 degrees the other day here in upstate New York. But with that, I think what we should do, I kind of want to get talking or started on this because I want to see how long it is. I'll get another few minutes. We got 24 people in here. Anyone have any questions right now before we jump in? Just kind of get warmed up because I haven't streamed in quite a while, actually. It's been a long time. Do I have that down here? I do, actually. Let me grab something, too, to show you guys. Carefully, quickly. Oh, my God. This does not roll very well. So I do not have my camera set up, so I'm going to use my main camera here. I don't have the overhead for this because I'm using it. But this is also the board that I'm going to be bringing to Keycon. This is the one I'm working. It's a Scotto 34, a new one that I'm kind of working on. It's a hand-wired one, so we are routing a little USB-C in there. But that's what I'm going to be bringing, and then I did do on my little CNC, little nice clear back plate, if I could speak English. So you can see that. You can also see my reflection in there. There. How's that work? But yeah, Sandra's in here. Okay, so what we are going to do is we are going to get started with this. We have 30 viewers going. That's probably about how many you're going to actually watch me live at the thing. So we'll see how this goes. But let me open up my watch here. I'll open up my Keynote app. I'm going to have to find a better way to do this to change slides. I'm probably going to bring a mouse or something. But here's how it's going to work. I'm going to do the presentation. I'm not going to look at chat. You guys can just talk between each other. If anyone notices anything weird with the presentation, maybe let me know about that. That'd be helpful. But yeah, we're going to just get started. I'm going to go over to the presentation slide here. You can see at the top left there that it is for Keycon 2025. There obviously won't be me in that, but I'm just on here for this reason here. And then I have a tiny screen above me. I will answer this one question before I jump in. Hold on. Hi, Joe. Looking to make one of your Handwire modifiers before we switch to simulate WSC. Okay, I guess there's just a statement there. Okay, we're going to get started here because I want to get started and see how this works. We'll drink some water, save questions for the end. But yeah, let's test run this presentation and see how it works. Let me breathe before I do this because I've been rambling a lot now. There won't be music on the real one either, but I figured I'd have music on this so it's not like too dead for stream. Okay, let's get started. So here we go. We'll see if my Keynote thing works. Yeah. All right, so hello, I am Joe Scotto. I am the handwiring guy, as you can see right now on the screen there. Some of you may know me. I know there's going to be people in the audience that actually know me here. And this is my Keycon 2025 presentation. So, well, who am I? I already kind of mentioned that, but basically I am a YouTuber and maker that designs and builds keyboards. I mainly make videos on handwired keyboards because it's kind of my thing, but sometimes I will branch out into PCBs. And also, all my handwire boards are available completely for free. So if you want to, like, build one yourself, I have all the case files, all the firmware files, all the like keyboard layout files. All that stuff is available on the repo at scottokeeps.com/github. You'll be able to kind of find that. Now, the next thing here that I do want to do, I kind of just did, is I do want to do a little bit of a shameless plug really quick because, well, there is more info on this if you wanted to dive in deeper. First of all, I do have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/Joe_Scotto, where you can kind of follow along with some of this stuff I'm going to talk about today, dive a little bit deeper into it. I am going to actually just kind of hide this chat over here so it doesn't keep distracting me. So if people are saying stuff, disregard that. But yeah, I do have a YouTube channel where you can kind of dive in deeper on this if you want to. And I'm also going to take these out because the music is also distracting me today. So rough start there. But anyway, I do have a YouTube channel where you can kind of dive in a little bit deeper with this if you want to, kind of find out some more stuff there on these, what I'm going to talk about. I have a bunch of videos on hand wiring stuff. And then I also do have a website where I have a store and I have more info on these builds. More specifically on there, I actually have information on all the components you would need for the builds, as well as like the information on pinouts. So I have like nice wiring diagrams, lots of info on there to kind of let you know what to do. Now, what are we going to be talking about today? Well, we're obviously going to be discussing keyboards. We're going to kind of start off with where it started, the basics of how a keyboard works. We're going to talk a little bit about why you would want to choose hand wiring at the end if we have time, which I think we will obviously have time today on the stream test, but if the real one might run over, we'll see. We will have some time for a Q&A. Now, this was the problem I knew was going to happen, is that my watch decides to just kill the Keynote thing, so I'm going to have to find a better way to do that. But I do have a kind of a warning here before we get into this, is that I do have some very strong opinions, specifically 60% bad, as you can see here. 60% of kind of interesting, at least in my opinion. And then also, if you look at the function row on this board, too many keys on a full size. Now, that's kind of a little bit of a joke there partially. I do like all keyboards. I know a lot of the keyboards at this event today, people, you know, kind of the thing that you see a lot is that people pick out their switches, they pick out their keycaps, they pick out their case, they pick out their PCB, and they kind of just assemble a board, right? What I want to do today is kind of hopefully open your mind a little bit to the more custom side of keyboards. Maybe you've been eyeing it for a while and we're kind of intimidated to jump into it, or you just don't know where to really start. And that's my hope today, is kind of open your mind and see that there are ways to kind of build a keyboard a lot more custom than just picking out your components and assembling it. So this is more making versus assembling. So what I want to talk about first now is, where did it all start exactly? Well, that was the Assassin Corn. You can see in blue here, the Corn is kind of the first board that I really latched on personally to, the first like design that I really enjoyed and built a lot of. If we skip to this next slide here, you'll see this one, which is my Barbie Corn here. And you can see on those plates here that they're kind of crossed off. If you search on my social media, you can actually find that and kind of see what it actually says there, but it wasn't really family friendly for this event, so I kind of just blocked that off there. But this was a case I found on Thingiverse. I remember this was like 4 years ago, so it was quite a while, but I modified it to my liking. I added those like tenting things to it. I added those like little design things in the corners there. I thought it looked pretty nice, so that was like my first real like super custom kind of thing there. But then we actually skip ahead to my next one, if my thing wants to work. That skipped ahead too. Let me just go back. Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to find a better way to handle this on the real talk. But this is my next corn here. This was a wireless corn. It was built with a nice nano, silk blacks. Those were MT3 keycaps there, but fully wireless. That was also my own case design there. So these were kind of the first two builds that somewhat started my like obsession with really custom keyboards, kind of diving into the 3D stuff there. But what we really want to talk about here is the Assassin corn, because this is what started it all with hand wiring. So this here was my first kind of hand wired board, and the reason I say that is we'll see in a second what I did, but basically it's just a simple 3x5 layout cord. So you see the two halves there. I made a custom case to kind of merge those two halves together into a monoblock design, and then I rerouted some keys into the middle there. And that artisan there actually is one that I did used to do, so that was an artisan I did at the time. I don't do that too much anymore. But if we actually go ahead here, we can see that this is the inside of the case, which I did want to talk about quickly here because it was kind of neat. And I think if I remember right, that A kind of design in the middle there is what defined it as the Assassin core. That's why I called it that, because of that little A there. But also those things on the sides are weights. This is just something I want to kind of mention, is that a lot of my builds, I kind of put weights in them to make them feel a little bit more premium. You can get different sizes and different weights on Amazon. There's like really big ones that are kind of thin. There's some small ones that are kind of like thicker and stuff, but you can add some weight to the board and make them feel a lot more premium there. But what we really want to talk about here is the handwire aspect of this and what made this kind of start my journey. So these are some images I found here. On the left is my really messy table at the time, because this was like 3 or 4 years ago when I was doing this. And the top right is kind of the wiring, which my face cam on this stream is actually kind of covering. And then the bottom right is the actual like switches, which were some robins, some drop robins at the time, which I did actually kind of take this board. This board doesn't exist anymore. The Assassin corn is no more. It is gone because I ripped the switches out of it. I don't know where the PCBs went either, but I took the switches out. I actually built the Scotto slant, which I don't have any slides of this presentation for, but I did actually put those in that. But this is kind of the basics of it. But if we actually go next here, this is what really kind of started the hand wiring for me. Is that first off here, I can't really like point anywhere. Maybe I'll have a laser pointer at the event, but you can kind of see underneath the controller sections here how I kind of wired the OLED directly into the pins. Reason for that is that at the time, this was a V1 PCB for the corn. You had to kind of bridge 4 little pads to get the OLED to actually function. And I didn't know how to do that really at the time. It was really hard and giving me a really big pain. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to wire the OLED directly in. So that's what I did on both halves there. That's why there's all those wires on there. And then, of course, since this was a split, there was the TRS connector to connect the two halves, as we saw in the Barbie corn a few seconds ago, where it had that cable connecting the two halves. I just directly wired those together. So you basically just wire the tip, ring, sleeve for the TRS connector. You wire those to each other because it was a monoblock. There was no reason to really have that kind of connector there. But the big thing here that I wanted to talk about was actually hijacking the matrix, which is the thing in the middle there. And we're not talking about this matrix here, although this matrix is arguably probably less confusing than the matrix we're going to actually talk about. But if we look at the whole thing here, you can kind of see those outer columns, so the outer sections on the corn there, you can actually snap those off. I think they got rid of that with the V3 and V4, but the V1 and V2 of the corn, you were actually able to snap those off if you didn't want to do a 6-key layout or a 6-column layout. You can snap those off and make a 5-column layout. I keep kind of getting distracted by chat over here, so I'm going to cover it up just a little bit more because people are talking, and I see we have 40 people in here too. I know I said I'm going to do this like straight through, but I do need to talk a little bit because we are streaming. But anyway, back to what I was saying here. Basically what I did here is I snapped off those outer columns, and I didn't want to waste those keys. So we had that middle section there of the kind of like arrow cluster. And what I did is I basically spent about 20 minutes of research, and I found out it was actually really easy to kind of hijack or jump into the matrix there, because we basically just had to take those outer columns and reroute them to the middle. And that's pretty much what I did here. Now, we're not going to go into too much detail on how I did that yet. We will talk about that a little bit later in this talk. But what I want to do right now is just kind of skip ahead a week later from that Assassin corn. I used it for about a week, and then I jumped into this build here, which is the Scotto 40. Now, I want to take a sip of water because my lips are kind of getting dry. I'm rambling on like this. Gotta hydrate. Hydro homie time. But this here is the Scotto 40. And it's kind of funny that I called it the Scotto 40 because, well, you can see that it has a 4x10 layout with like 40 keys available, but it has like that weird thing in the middle with the, I think that was a 1.75U, because I couldn't do stabilizers at the time when I built this. This was my first ever hand-wired board. But what I eventually actually did with this build is I just kind of got rid of all the alternate layouts, because I had like this layout and another one. I just did a simple 4x10 layout, so if you actually go to the repo and look at the Scotto 40, it's only currently a 4x10 board, so you can't really do anything else with that now. But if we actually go forward, you can see this was my first ever hand-wired board, and the wiring is kind of atrocious at the time. You can kind of see the copper matrix thing that hasn't really changed since then. Actually, that was pretty much perfect from the start. Like the first time I did the copper matrix with the insulation and the copper wiring you see there, worked flawlessly. It worked really, really good there. But if you look at that, it has a Pro Micro, which is kind of disgusting. I didn't know that at the time. I did eventually switch away from that. We also do have in the top left there, we have a piece of insulation because I kind of messed that up and didn't insulate it properly, so I had to kind of cram that under there. But this board did also work. It did work like the first attempt I made with it, which was awesome. It didn't screw fully into the case because I used like the wrong standoffs and stuff, so it's kind of was like really janky there also. But if we actually skip ahead another week later, so this is a week after the Scotto 40, I got a little bit more ambitious here, and I kind of went with this board, which was a Scotto 36. You see we have an OLED on it, we have a kind of slight ergo layout there, and then that is also an artisan in the middle there, because at the time I did do artisans, so I was doing artisans around this time. Around COVID time I started doing artisans actually, and I did sell them for a while there, but I did branch off after that, kind of went into just a keyboard route and went away from the artisans because they are a really big pain to kind of do, so I have massive respect for anyone at the event today that does artisans, because I know there's a lot of artisan makers here. Just really a lot of work to kind of sell those, although I do sometimes dabble with them for my own use now. I don't really see myself selling them in the future because they're a lot of work to do. But if we skip here, this is the image that probably a lot of the viewers on the stream right now actually are aware of, but also anyone that doesn't know me, or maybe you have seen this video floating around, this was the thumbnail for my actual how to build a handwire keyboard video. So my very popular video here that I do recommend after this talk, if you want to dive deeper into this, check that video out on my channel, because it will kind of give you a really solid understanding of how to build a handwire keyboard pretty much from scratch. It goes over everything. I do eventually want to remake this. I'm going to do a different example soon. But what I want to jump into now is, how does a keyboard work? Well, it's basically just a grid. I'm getting an alarm on this. Let me just check to make sure we're good. Okay, we are good. So yeah, basically, how does a keyboard work? Well, it's just a grid. If you look here, we will explain this in further detail here shortly. This is basically a simple 4x10 layout grid here. But what we actually have to talk about first before we talk about the matrix grid, so we have to talk about the controller here. So this is just a simple Pro Micro here. This is an Atmega 32U4. You can see that big black thing in the middle. That's actually the chip here. And basically, well, why does the controller matter? It's the brain of the keyboard. And the first thing we have to talk about here is that the controller you choose will directly impact how many switches you can have on your build. This is probably the biggest deciding factor for a controller here. If we actually skip ahead, we can see that this is a Pro Micro here. Some of you may be used to like a blue Pro Micro. This is just a red Spark Fun one. You can get them very cheap on AliExpress still, but I will recommend a different controller here shortly. But basically, if you want to find out how many keys you can support on your controller here, the simplest one is if you want to, well, just beeps. Something just beeps here. Anyway, got a distraction because I'm not in like a setup place to do this. But basically, the simplest way to kind of find out how many switches you can support is you can just take the number of GPIO pins, which are general purpose in out. That's where you wire your switches to. For the Pro Micro here, for example, it has 18 pins. Put simply, you can put 18 keys on that. But obviously that won't work if you want to say do a 60% board, right? If you want to do a bigger board, or even most 30%. I mean, the Scotto 34 here, this will probably be at the talk or not. We'll see what I do with that. But with that, it has 34 keys on it, and obviously 18 pins isn't enough. So there is a simple solution to kind of do the math here. This slide is not correct. I do have to actually note that. Can someone ping me in my Discord right now and tell me to update this slide, please? That would be very helpful. But basically, in order to find how many pins or how many switches your controller can support, you take your GPIO pins, you divide that by 2. So for the Pro Micro, divided by 2. Well, actually, let's talk about this slide. You divide them by 2, and then you multiply that number by itself to kind of get that. So you multiply by 2. Yes. 9 times 9. I'll explain that in a second. But basically, I'm thinking of the math right here. The math might not work on this. Someone called me out on this on the Discord also. We're just going to roll with it. So basically, to find the pins for a Pro Micro, we have 18 pins. You divide that by 2. That's 9. 9 times 9. This is actually correct. It is squared. Never mind. I take that back. So 9 times 9 is 81. 81 possible switches on that. Now, there are ways to do a little bit of a more complex matrix here with Japanese duplex matrices. I don't have any slides for that because they are beyond the scope of what I even understand. But there are ways to kind of get more keys on your keyboard if you wanted to. But for the simplest example, what I recommend doing is just take your pins, divide them by 2, or your GPIO pins, divide them by 2, and then square that, and that will give you how many switches you can actually support. Now, the next thing I want to discuss here is that the controller is also important because it will decide what features you're able to use. For example, here, these are pins for SDA and SCL, and then we have ground and VCC. Those are for, like, say, an OLED if you wanted to do that. Most controllers are going to have this. This isn't really that big of a consideration, but it is something to just be kind of aware of. Also, there are these pins here, TX and RX, so if you want to do like a split, those are for serial communication between the two halves. Most boards are going to have this, so it's not really going to be a massive consideration. There are some kind of more niche things there if you are, say, integrating into a PCB that you might have to do some additional circuitry on there. But for most development boards, that's what we call like a Pro Micro is a development board. It's going to have that just kind of there exposed on a pin, but just something to kind of be aware of. Now, the next thing that is kind of a bigger consideration, specifically with the more, I don't know what they're called. They're not ARM-based, but the maybe x86, but like the STM32, the Atmega32U4, so like a Pro Micro. Memory limitations are going to be a really big consideration. Now, the reason I say that is that an Atmega32U4, I believe it's about 32 kilobytes of storage, and STM32 is around 128 kilobytes. If we actually take a look at one of my advanced key maps here, that is all data there. That's all stuff that's going to take up memory. This is actually for Bongo Cat that I showed earlier on the Scotto 36. That's how that is actually displaying on the OLED. And you can very quickly kind of fill up your entire memory on your chip and run out of space. Now, this has happened to me. There are some ways to kind of get around this. But for the most part, what you want to really do is just get a better controller, which we will talk about in a second here. And this will also impact how many layers you can have on your key map. If you don't have enough storage, you might run out of layers on your key map or the ability to add all the features you want. You might have to disable stuff like tap dance. Maybe if you're doing RGB on something, you might have to disable that. So the big considerations you really want to take into when you're actually looking at a controller is you want to take into how many switches you can have, and then really the memory limitations, and then features kind of last. Now, there is also wireless as an option. The concepts I'm going to discuss here with the matrix and how the keyboard works, I'm going to actually discuss that because it is an option here. Specifically, the Nice Nano is what I would really recommend. It's about a $25 development board here. It has the same pinout as a Pro Micro. Other than being expensive, that's really the only like considering factor with it. It does run ZMK firmware too, which is kind of a little bit more challenging than QMK. But there are also clones of this board out there that exist. I do not recommend getting those for two reasons. One, if you get the real one, you're actually supporting the real creator of the Nice Nano. He's just a dude like me that basically designed this and sells them, and then China kind of ripped them off. But then also the development or the copy ones of this board are kind of a little bit janky. They sometimes have some issues with battery draw, which is an issue. But the real only other consideration, this is my Scotto Chalksword build here, is that it does require a battery to actually run. So you do have to wire up two more things. It's not really that hard. I mean, there are pads on the board for it. There's a plus and a minus that you just wire the battery into, and then you can also wire that to a switch if you wanted to. But it is something to kind of deal with additional. And if you don't know what you're doing, you can short out the batteries. That is a possible thing there. So I would say if you are going to start hand wiring, kind of start simple with wired and then go to wireless if you want to later. But this here is the completed Scotto Chalksword here, which was a pretty fun build of mine for a while there that I actually used and really enjoyed. But I've kind of moved on to it now for a little while. So what do I recommend for the controller? Well, put simply, I recommend an RP2040. It's made by Raspberry Pi. They're beautiful chips. This is actually just the RP2040 chip here. It does require a lot of additional stuff on this, so what I'm showing you is just a chip here. But if we go next, we actually have a development board. This is one I used to sell on my website before tariffs kicked in and kind of messed that up for a little while here. But this is just one. This one has 16 megabytes of flash. It's a very fast controller. It's very good. And this one has USB-C, which we'll talk about the reason for that USB-C there in a second. There is also this one, which I like, which is a Pro Micro themed one, or a Pro Micro size one with some additional pins, which looks pretty nice. But the one that I really like also is this here. Now, the big thing with an RP2040 is that I believe the number of pins that it has available are 28, if I remember correctly. It's 28 pins available. So you basically can get like 190 switches on that, which, I mean, that's going to basically cover any build. And I actually have one I want to do with that eventually with a lot of keys. It's been sitting on my projects for a while. I just haven't done it yet. But also you can see there's a lot of like stuff for serial communication here. There's a lot of stuff for OLEDs. There's a ton of memory. By default, I believe the RP2040 is actually 2 megabytes of flash, which is a lot of storage there. But the big issue with the actual RP, or this is a Pico that you're looking at right now. This is the green one that I actually really like. I like the design of it. This is the official one that Raspberry Pi makes. But the issue with the official one is that you can see up at the top of the diagram here, that's actually a micro USB. Now there is a solution to this that I actually do a lot. If we go to the next slide here, my watch is being really annoying with this. I gotta get a Bluetooth thing for this talk because this is gonna be annoying having that. But if we look on the back of the Pi Pico, you can actually see these test points. So TP1 is ground, there's TP2, and then TP3, which are the data lines, and you can tie into the actual voltage on it. And what we can do with that is really cool stuff where we can bypass that micro USB, and I do have a short on my channel that some people that know me might know about, where I ripped that port off before for this build in particular. This is the Scotto Ergo, and you can see that there is a Pico mounted in the middle, but it doesn't have any controller or any USB port mounted to it because I ripped it off, which I probably didn't need to, but I did anyway, and it was good clickbait for a video. But you can see that big aviator connector up top is what I kind of did. Is there's 4 pins on there, so I routed that into a USB cable. On the back here, you can kind of see a really big hot glue mess because I was actually really annoying to get this build built to do that because of kind of how it was like tightly fitting in there, and it was really pain, so I just kind of hot glued everything in there once it worked, and that is there and it works and everything was great. But then also there was another build here, that is my dog there. I figured I would include him in this talk just because it'd be fun, but that is the Scotto 44 there. So if we actually skip ahead, his name is Angus, by the way, but we'll skip ahead here to this, which is the Scotto 44, and you can see we have 2 Raspberry Pi Picos on both halves there. I really like this build, but yet again here what I did is I actually tied into those test points on the Pico to mount it to USB-C. I have a little bit of a closer look here at that. You can kind of see on the left there how I'm routing that. And it's just a really nice thing with those. I really like how you can do that with the Pico, and I actually plan on this build, which I'm probably going to pass this around at the event just so people can look, but that's kind of what I did in here. As you can see, I routed that to a USB-C, so I don't have to use that disgusting micro USB, so that's really great. But now is the big time. It's time to discuss a matrix with diodes. So as I mentioned a few minutes ago, there is, of course, direct wiring. You have, say, 18 pins in your controller. You can wire them all to each pin. You don't need diodes on that because each pin knows exactly which switch is there. But that obviously does not work because you need more switches a lot of the time than pins are available on the controller. Hydration, good. So what we have here is the Scotto 9. Now I designed this board. I mean, it's not really like I designed this board. This is pretty much one that has existed forever. It's a simple 3x3 macro pad, right? But I did this, and this is the build I actually used on my how to build a handwire keyboard video because it is just simple enough and just complex enough to kind of really get these concepts across to you. So if we actually go forward here, what we have to talk about is kind of columns and rows and how that works. So what we're looking at here is just the basic matrix of the board. We have our 3 and 3 there. We have our 9 switches, and we're using that copper wire stuff, which I obviously haven't really added how that works on this talk, but my video on my channel does actually go into more detail on that. It's basically 16 gauge copper wire with some insulation to kind of do that there, and then we'll talk about the diodes in a second. If we actually go next, what we have first are our columns, and the columns are the ones that run vertically. So we have 1 column here, 2 columns, and then 3 columns. So we have our 3 columns there. Then we also have rows, which are the ones that run across the board, so horizontally. So we have 1 row, 2 rows, and then 3 rows. So now each one of these will actually get a pin on the controller. So here we have 3 and 3. We're going to need 6 pins in total. So we're actually wiring them to is 6. We have 5, 4, and then we have our rows here, which that's actually covering it up. That's 15, 14, and then 16. So if we actually flip over now, there's another slide here. We look on the controller. We have these pins that correspond to that. So we have right here 4, 5, and 6. And then on the right, we have 15, 14, and 16 for our rows. And then finally, what we also have is, this is kind of a little confusing right now, I understand. There will be questions at the time you can ask on this, but I promise it isn't that confusing once you kind of really understand these concepts. But this here is just our firmware. You can see that we have 4, 5, and 6, and then 15, 14, 16 for our rows and our columns there. You're probably noticing that those are actually D4, C6, and D7. Reason for that is that with the Arduino Pro Micro, the non-RP2040, RP2040 basically just is by number. It's like GP1, GP2. It's very easy to understand. It matches what the pin is, but on an RP20 or an Atmega32U4, so Pro Micro, it doesn't match. It has like this D notation, the B notation. You kind of can look at the pinout early in the talk. You can kind of see that if you actually skip back on the video, because it's also going to be a video here, you'll be able to see what that was at the time. But yeah, you basically just matches up in your firmware, and that's pretty much it there. It's kind of simple enough. But also I do want to mention these here, which are the diodes. The diodes are very important because it is called a matrix with diodes. The diodes basically give you N key rollover and anti-ghosting stuff. So if you wanted to say type your keys, it's not going to basically get confused on where the switch is. I don't know the specifics on how this works. Basically they allow it to flow in one direction. So it flows from the switch to the black line on the diode. A lot of this stuff too, you'll notice that I don't know like the detailed stuff. Because I do heavily leverage like firmware stuff. There are very great firmwares out there that kind of do this for you, so you don't really have to think about the more complicated stuff. You just need to know the basics of the columns and rows and stuff. But if we actually go forward here, you can see that this is it all wired up afterwards. It looks a little messy, and you can see my wiring here actually doesn't match what I just showed, because when I did wire this, I wired it incorrectly in the video, so that's another reason why I kind of want to redo that. But then also another thing is you can kind of see how I mount my controller here. With hot glue at the time. I've actually switched to UV resin now, but I don't do anything fancy for them. I just glue them in. It's easy enough and holds in good. Sometimes I'll put some more around the actual port also to kind of hold that in better also, which is nice. But if we actually continue onwards here, we have another slide here with my website that kind of I want to mention again. My website does have really good detailed stuff on this to kind of show what to do there. So if you want to like wire it up, you can see these are the pins you use there, and it's just kind of clear. And I have this for pretty much all the boards I've released, which is very useful to like beginners. Now, the next thing here is that now we're going to talk a little bit more about the grid system. So how does the keyboard know when a key is pressed, right? How does it know that you pressed a key at a certain position? So if we just go here, we go to the next slide, we have C0, C1, and then C2. So we have column 0, column 1, column 2, and then on the bottom there we actually have the pins for those so you can see what they are. Yet again, we have the same thing here for R0, which is 15 on the right there for the pin. So the left is the actual row name, and then the right is the pin number. So we have R1, which is 14 pin, and then we have R2, which is the 16th pin. There are people walking around upstairs, and it's making me lose my train of thought. One moment here. So yeah, as you can see here, we basically have this grid layout on the board here. And then we have our pins on the right, we have our name on the left. And now the other thing I want to mention here is too that you're probably wondering, why does it start at 0 and why doesn't it start at 1? Well, this is basically just a programming thing here. Stuff starts at... Let me just pause that over there. I have the stream running too, and it's like delayed, so it's confusing me. But programming starts at 0. It's called 0 indexing. So basically 0 is 1, 1 is 2, 2 is 3. That's just kind of how it works. So you basically think of it like that. Just kind of how it is. Wrap your head around if you're going to be doing stuff like this. But where does the board actually start? Because it does start with this as a matrix that kind of scans it. Well, it starts in the top left when you're facing from the front. If you're facing from the back, it'd be at the top right of the switches. So the pin side would be on the top right or the top left here. And basically we have to number these now because like I said, it is just a grid. So if we actually go to the next slide here, you see we have 0, 0 here for row 0, column 0. If we go next, we have row 0, column 1. Then we have row 0, column 2 there. So each one is getting a coordinate grid location essentially. So if we go through and do this for all of them, you can see that each one just has a number associated with it. So that's how the board actually knows where it's pressed. So if we actually go next here, you can see we have 1, 1 here. We have the 14th pin there for the row, and then we have the 5th pin for the column. And then basically the keyboard just detects that, boom, those hit right there, do something with that key press. So if we go next here, we can actually see this is kind of how it is in the actual code here. The left side of this is where you're actually defining that. So this is where you're defining all those coordinate grid layouts, basically. We have the 0, 1, 0, 2, all that stuff aligns with what I just explained back there. And then this section over here sometimes confuses people. This is actually just for the physical layout for like displaying stuff. This doesn't really actually impact where the switch is on the board layout. So not where the firmware is detecting it. This is just where it, like, say if you're using Vile, it'll kind of define that layout there. So with that, that's kind of the matrix how it works. It's maybe a little bit confusing here, but hopefully that's enough of a high level understanding to kind of start explaining a little bit to you how it works. But if we actually go forward here, we want to talk about now, why would one want to choose Handwiring? Well, because it's cool. That's kind of the first thing that I would say, but also among other things. So here's the first one yet again. It is pretty damn cool and a bit of a flex. I mean, look at this here. This is my Scotto 108, which although I don't like 100% boards, I mean, look at that. Like, that's a flex right there when you show that to someone that, hey, I really built this thing. I wired this up. I know where everything goes on the firmware. I built this, you know. I didn't just buy a kit and put this together. I built this. This is my design, and I hand wired it with a few hours of time to do this, right? That's the big thing there. Here's another one too. This is the Scotto Wing PCB edition, which is actually a really cool board, but you can kind of see how everything routed in there. And also a cool thing, or not really a cool thing about this, a interesting fact about this board is that was the first time ever out of like 30 or 40 or 50 boards actually I've done. lot of boards. I've done like 50 plus boards in the past few years. But out of the boards I built, this is the only one I've ever had with a dead-on arrival controller. So I actually had to rip all that out, at least the controller section, and put a new controller in to get it to work. But this board was really cool because if we actually go forward, you can see I had like these really cool resin keycaps on it. So those are resin biocompatible keycaps I printed. There is some debate there if Soraya Tech Blue is actually biocompatible or if they lied about it. So that's some new info because I do have a video talking about that. And it might not actually be biocompatible. So side note there. But I like that design in the middle. It was kind of really cool. And then also it was my thinnest ever hand-wired build, which arguably this one here might actually thin also because it's about the same dimensions as that, but that's what it looked like. I thought it was a really, really cool board, but just wanted to kind of show that one off. Now, the next thing here, if my watch wants to work, there we go. You're able to bypass restrictions that PCBs have. Now, this is the bigger, actual, more practical reason to hand wire boards here. So if I go next, what you're going to see here is this is a dactyl manuform. Probably many people have seen these before. There's many different variations of the dactyl and kind of sculpted boards that don't have a typical flat layout, right? Even the Scotto Ergo that I showed earlier is kind of an example of this where a PCB won't necessarily always work. Now, there are things like this for the actual dactyls that you could use. You could get flex PCBs. There are more advanced ones and stuff, but they're expensive, first of all. And also, why would you do that when you can just hand wire, right? Why would you order stuff and wait for it? I mean, I could see if you don't really understand hand wire at the time, but there are reasons to kind of avoid PCBs with stuff, and that is if you want to do something more advanced. So like here is the dactyl inspired. I forget what this one was called. I think it's actually the guy's username there, what this one was called, but you can see the wiring on the right here, and then the layout on the left. So it kind of gives you more practical use case for hand wiring here, where you can actually wire stuff up according to a different layout where a PCB wouldn't typically work. Now, another reason too is if I actually go forward to this build here, which is my Scotto Katana build, is that you can see how I'm passing those wires through the middle there. There isn't really room for a controller here. I mean, if you were doing a PCB, you could find a place on the board to do it, but that makes it more advanced and more complicated. And this kind of just makes it more accessible for someone who doesn't necessarily know how to design integrated microcontroller PCBs to design stuff that's more advanced like this, because you can kind of route everything in there and then route it where you needed to on the controller without kind of taking into consideration where to fit all the other components that are needed for a onboard PCB MCU. So this here is actually the Scotto Katana kind of finally built here, which I really do like this build. I just haven't used it much. I might actually even bring this one to the event and show it off there. You're allowed to bring 2 boards, so I'm probably going to bring 2 boards with me. This one might be one of them. So I guess I got to do this like I'm on the event. So yeah, go check it out on the tables out there. And anyway, so now we do have a final reason here, or close to the final reason here. It can be incredibly, incredibly fast. When you're first starting, obviously it's not going to be as fast, but I can put together a board now pretty quickly. A build typically takes me about 2 to 4 hours, depending on the build. My more complicated ones will, of course, take longer. But I can kind of go from in the beginning of the day. Let me just skip forward to my workshop here to kind of show you that I do have, obviously, a big workshop with this set up to kind of build keyboards optimally as hell to kind of ramp them out. But I can basically go from, say, I wake up at 10. I can design a board within, say, 30 minutes on Keyboard Layout Editor. I can kind of design that in Shaper 3D because I have a set of standards I kind of follow with these now to get them built. So I kind of follow those, and then I can print it out. Bamboo Labs printers, very, very fast. And then I can be wiring it up and buy probably 5 or 6 that day, an 8-hour work day or so. I have a board that's actually functioning. You can go very, very fast with them, which is really, really nice. And I think that's probably, to me, the biggest selling point of handwire boards. I don't like waiting for stuff. I'm not a very patient person. So the final one here too is that PCBs are expensive, and yet again, they are slow. Now, this is probably a poor example here. My bad. Let me go back here. This is probably a poor example. This is a Scotto 34. For 5 PCBs, it's like $10. But with the tariff situation stuff, it's actually covering that up. It's like $60 to get 5 PCBs from this. Especially if you're using like more advanced PCBs like PCB-A, where you're getting a bunch of components on the board. Not only is there the time to wait for them, you can kind of see here with your waiting times after production is about 4 to 5 days or even longer depending on the shipping method. There is also the tariff situation where they're really expensive. So for my Scotto 44 that I wanted to build, the handwire board I showed earlier, I wanted to do a PCB of that. It was close to like $300 or $400 to get like 20 of those units in, when it didn't used to be that much, because we're at like 50 or 60% tariff currently on production from China, which is obviously a problem right now. So that is one issue. But then also with PCBs, there is always a chance you get a PCB in and you mess something up with your design, even though you checked it over and everything and made sure it was ready to go. There is a chance you get that PCB in and it doesn't function, and then you have to, yet again, pay all that money, wait another week or so to get it in, a week or two, depending on the shipping method you took, and then maybe you messed it up again. So there are like revision cycles with PCBs, or with Handwire, you can kind of be like, okay, this switch isn't working, let me just rewire that, done, you have a working board. So that is kind of the end of this talk here. I am Joe Scotto, the Handwiring guy. I do not know how long that was. I think that was about 30 minutes. I'm going to actually put these back in now, because what we're going to do now is, if we have time, I'm going to open up my chat over here. And we're going to see if we can do a little bit of a Q&A. Let's see. Let's see what we got here. So, here we are. We are back now. We are going to try to do a bit of a Q&A now. That was my talk. Does anyone know how long that was? It says about 40 minutes. So is that about 30 minutes? That's perfect. I got about 45 minutes for it. I could probably speed that up, so that means I have a little bit of lead time. They say there's about a 15-minute between them also, so I do have time in between, which is nice. I did see we had like 40 people for this whole thing. 39 minutes. Okay, perfect. That is perfect. Okay, so that is that's working about what I want. When will Phila you do? Eli, what are you saying? What are you saying, Eli? Eli, I do not know. When will Phila? Oh, when will you do the studio tool? Oh, okay. Here we go. Here we go. Tariffs. Thank you, Donald. Yeah, the tariffs have been pissing me off a lot, but I try not to get into that on my channel too much. But it is honestly bullshit. The tariffs are absolute bullshit. Thankfully they've come down a lot, but yeah, they didn't need to be there. Pizza. How's it going, Pizza? Joe, I can't come to Keycon because I can't afford plane tickets, but will you post some photos? Oh yeah, I'm gonna record. I'm gonna try to do a vlog. I'll be posting photos and stuff from it, taking video and stuff. So Keycon, where and when? Keycon is in DC, June 14th at 10 to 5. So this weekend, I'm going to DC on Friday. It's like 6.5 hours for me, so I'm gonna head down there with my dad, and we're gonna record that. What else? Have you seen any ways to integrate Hall effect switches into Handwire boards? I've been looking for something like Amoeba single key PCBs and Hall effect switches, but haven't found any. Not that I know of. I haven't seen anything yet. I haven't seen anything for the Hall effect yet. Eventually, maybe, but I don't really care about Hall effect yet. They're just kind of a magnet. I don't know what they're doing with them yet. I don't really keep up to date on those. June 14th is bad timing. Yeah, it's right before Father's Day. So a lot of people, I think, aren't going because of Father's Day. And also, there is the military parade that day, too, which I am going to because I'm there. Might as well check that out. We won't get into discussions on that, but yeah, we're going to check out the military parade that's going on and check out DC and also in general because I just like DC. Oh, yeah, there is the protest, too. There's a bunch of protests going on also, yeah. Yeah, so it's going to be an interesting thing, being in DC on June 14th with a bunch of stuff going on. we're gonna see how that goes, but yeah. The tariff for electronics is 25% to export. I don't know. I know it's 54% to import stuff. So yeah, it's kind of annoying with the import tariffs right now. I mean, that's what, if you went on my website anytime recently, I've removed all my like microcontrollers from there because I need them for my builds. So I can't really sell those right now. I mean, I could technically, I just have to pay out the ass to get them in. So that's kind of annoying. We make an extensive guide on how to hand wire wireless boards. I can't follow ZMK docs in your chalks, or you didn't cover it. Eventually, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Basically the concepts for a wireless build are the same. It's just a firmware section. I do want to do a stream, like a follow along stream where I can help people real time maybe, but I'm trying to find the way to do that without like driving myself insane, right? Maybe donations or something I would have for that, like ask your question, toss me $5 or something, I'll try to answer it. Because the reason I don't do a lot of like coding streams and stuff is it just annoys me. It really does, because nothing against like anyone with it, but it is kind of a loaded topic to discuss a lot of the time when it comes to coding, because I know how to do it. Like I've coded for 15 years now, probably, you know, like I know my way around that stuff, but trying to teach someone that's just jumping into it, it's very intimidating. That one I will admit. Joe, does your iMac G4 work? Yes, it does. I just have no idea where the cable is. Glitch, I'm glad I got controllers before poop at the fan. Yeah, I'm glad that I have over here. See if I grab this. I have my bag of controllers, all different types. I got Picos in there, so many. That were also stocked for my shop for a while there, but because of tariffs, I don't do that anymore because I just don't know when I'm going to be able to get them easily for me, and I don't want to pay a lot for them. What else we got here? All the photos from Keycon will be in white and pink. Yeah, I guess Eli knows about my if you're in my Discord, I've been posting infrared. I got an infrared camera recently. I've been doing a lot of that. We wouldn't do that inside because there's not really infrared light, but yeah, it's a lot of controllers. What other Q&A we got? We'll just hang out here for probably like 15 minutes or so. I don't want to do too long of a stream today because I am doing the stream on this build tomorrow, which is exciting. I have no idea how to say your name, but I've been coding for... Wait, I can do this. I forgot I could do this. This works. I've been coding for a long time too, but ZMK I seem to not understand it all. I'm not good at all with low-level stuff. Yeah, so ZMK is C, I believe, which is low-level. But it's also confusing because of their docs. Like, their docs are really annoying for ZMK. It's not bad for me because, like I said, I'm pretty good at figuring that stuff out, and also I know some of the people at ZMK, and there is a ZMK Discord you kind of get help from. But ZMK, it's kind of an easy process, actually, to set up. It's just really tedious is all. So, yeah, we will discuss that in a stream eventually. What time might the stream be tomorrow? I'm probably aiming for 1 again. Probably around 1. I wake up around like 9, 10 normally, so it takes me an hour or 2 to kind of get rolling for the day, which is going to be a struggle for Keycon, actually, because it starts at 10. I think I have to check in at 10 because I'm a speaker. So, yeah, we'll kind of do that. What's your favorite chip? Nord, Pico, Raspberry? RP2040. That's my favorite chip. Simple. Is that a new Scotto 34? Yes, it is. It is a... I mean, it's based on the original. I just kind of modified it a little bit there. If that wants to focus, you can kind of see. And then on the back, we're doing a nice... Let me see if I can grab it here without scratching it. We have a CNC transparent plate, so it's going to look nice. I'm very excited for that one, which is going to be fun. By the way, I thought you were going to use my wood case. Did that get cut? Yeah, Sander, I didn't add that. I just kind of added my things. I might add it still. I haven't decided yet. But that case is actually badass. If you're not at my Discord, go check out the showcase channel and check out the thing that Sander made in there because it's actually wild. It's insane. When I use Pico reproductions with USB-C, I do. I just like the look of the real Pico. So I like that one, and it gives me an excuse to use the test points to reroute it. So it is USB-C. You can kind of see there that I am rerouting it, but that's why. Have you tried mounting Kale hot swap sockets in the switch plate on a handwire build without using a single key PCBs? I've been asked that question a lot about that. Let me just do that so people know what I'm referring to. I've been asked this quite a bit, actually, about, like, hand-wired stuff with hot swap sockets. I just haven't ever done it because I don't really care enough to do that. I'd rather just solder it up nice and solid. If I want to do hot swap, I do a PCB. Pretty much as simple as that. That's what I do there. Will you upload the new design to the repo? I really like it and would love to build one and never use it. My hands are too big. It's on the repo right now. If you go on there, they're all on there, and I even included the files to cut that out with a CNC. So they're all on there if you wanted to do it. Of course, the CAD files, everything's on there. So if you wanted to build that one, you could. I'm also thinking right now that we said about 35 minutes for the talk. Probably a little bit less, actually, because there were some like mistakes in there. But yeah. Hi, Joe. Could you please show how to use the cutter disc with your diode coiling? Oh, okay, yeah. I can actually show that. I don't have an overhead right now, but I will grab my parts 1 second. All right, so what we have here, I'm going to try to show this. So for anyone that's built or wants to build a diode coiling jig, it is also for sale on my website if you wanted to support me and buy one. But we have this here. Basically, you can use the cutting thing to kind of put it on there and get the length proper. So you just kind of cut it flush. Same with the pins below. I think that's kind of explains it a little bit. But yeah, you basically just use it to cut them. I think I might do the Pico on top for my next board, especially since it'll be translucent going for 90s hacker vibes. Yeah, I've seen some of your builds in there. They're looking pretty good. I know you're a new member in the Discord, so I recognize your picture there. Lucas, could you check my keyboard? Let me see what we got here. Let me see. Where at? Oh yeah, I see Sander recommending that. I don't see anything in there for that. Joe, is ortho really worth it? Hold on, let's pull that up. Yes, it is. I didn't actually talk about that in my talk. I should probably put a note to talk about that, but I want to talk about ortho for handwired is very worth it because then it's just like straight up a grid. It's really easy. So it makes it really simple. So yeah, I enjoy ortho. I don't see anything in here. Yeah, I don't see it, Lucas. What else we got for questions? Keep them rolling. Surprised that I think it was Eli asking for the Q&A. Water is good. I pet that dog. Yeah, he's upstairs somewhere. I think he's sleeping. Yeah, Lucas, post that in the GitHub and I can take a look afterwards. Hey, Jay is cozy. I'm excited for Keycon, so I guess I'm gonna see you there. Yeah, I'm actually interested to go to this because I've never gone to a keyboard meetup, and I know there's gonna be people there that know me. I know that Alex from Keyboard Dweebs is gonna be there, which I talk to him every once in a while. I don't know who else is gonna be there that knows me. I mean, obviously Jay is cozy will be there. If you see me, come say hi, because that'd be kind of crazy seeing people that know me from the internet IRL. Keyboard meetups are fun. Yeah, I've never been, but I hope no one steals my Scotto 34, because I've been hearing things that sometimes things get stolen there. At least if someone steals it, it's like, you know, 30 bucks in parts. It's not like I have a big old brass case there with a nice brass weight and rare ass switches. I mean, these are just some chalk reds. Andy, any plans to do a hot swap hand wire? Someone else asked this a little bit ago, but no, not anytime soon. Definitely not anytime soon. Please give a studio tour. There's a new machine every stream. What's new this time? What is new this time? I don't think there's anything new. I mean, there is the CNC, but I did the video on that. But yeah, I will do that. I'm surprised you haven't come to any of the New York City meetups. The community is peak. I've considered it. New York is actually, surprisingly, kind of harder to get to than DC. It's just a pain in the ass is all. It's closer, but, like, still. It's just kind of a pain to go to New York. I could stay with family there, though, in theory. I don't know. DC, I like DC, too, so it's kind of an excuse to go on a trip to DC. So, yeah. Yeah, I saw that Glitch has done this, hot swap hand wire. I'm pretty sure I've seen it in this server before. There are printable ones you can do. So. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited for Keycon. It's like, what is it? It's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We leave Friday, so I had 2 more full days here, and then I'm out on Friday. So. Actually, yeah, what Eli's saying right now, Andy, Jan, Lunge, I have no idea how to say the last name, I always mess it up, but has a great video on handwire hot swaps. He does have a video on that, so go check out Jan on that, because there is a video that he did on that. I do know about that, which he does talk about. Water. Astrom's Dactyl is hot swap. Yeah, my Dactyl is hot swap. 3D printed spaces for the sockets and just glued it. Did you post that one in the server? I think you might have. But, yeah, no, I haven't done any of the hot swap stuff because it just doesn't... I just don't care enough for it. I'm thinking about it right now, too. Cool thing on this board that I didn't really show. Look at the filament there. If you can block my... It's, Bamboo Sparkle. I like the Vertigo PLA or whatever. I think it looked kind of nice. I don't know. I'm excited for this build. A lot, actually. I'm planning on streaming it tomorrow. The back plate just is... Having that CNC is awesome because this back plate, you can just kind of take it. It pops in so nicely with the heat set inserts. So you'll be able to see all the wiring. I mean, the original Scotto 34 actually had that too. But I hand cut it. If anyone knows about that video on my channel, you can see when I like hand cut the back plate. It was such a pain in the ass to do. But this one works really good. What 3D printer would you recommend for large keyboard prints? Honestly, that one right... That one. So that is an Elegoo Neptune 4 Max. It's like $400, I think, around there. It was a pain in the ass when I first got it because it did a lot of clipper things I didn't like. I don't know how the firmware is now, but it works great. It's what I use for all my massive builds. It works really good. Wait, as a channel member, you get a different message pop-up? I think so. I guess it just, yeah. I know if anyone donates to it and I click those, it like says stuff on it too. It throws how much or whatever. But yeah, there's Sander. So it shows you're a member, I guess. Cobra 3 Max. I've heard about that one too. Any of the Max. Sobel just released an SV08 Max 500mm. That is big. Is it a bed slinger? Is that a bed slinger glitch? Because I mean, that one there is I think 420 by 420 by 500, I think, and that is pushing the limits of what you can do with the bed slinger. Like it is It is big. It's a lot of metal moving. Like, that's, you know, underneath that's a big aluminum plate. It's big. Oh, okay. I might have to reach out to Silval, see if they can hook it up, you know? Because I did get sent the Carvera for, they sent that to me, so maybe Silval will send me a SV08. That'd be cool. Sander. Yep, that's, every time I think of the 420 on the Eligo, that's what I think of. So yeah, the SV08 though, that'd be kind of cool. I don't really print anything. Like I said, I mean, I do 30%. I don't really do anything. Oh yeah, here's that. This is the video I just released. So, all right, this is something I actually want to talk about in the talk that I might talk about if I remember to. How can I make a really cheap keyboard? One little problem is I don't have a 3D printer or a soldering iron. You can hand wire stuff with cardboard. You can just cut stuff out and literally do that if you want to. Like, you don't need to 3D print stuff. Now, it's kind of janky doing that with cardboard, but you can do that. You can hand cut it, and then it's like really, really handmade. What else we got? But that Scotto 69. Oh yeah, that. Oh wait, yeah, I forgot. You did buy one from me and built it. I remember you did the R2D2 themed one. I remember that now. Yeah, that was printed on that also. So yeah, that just saved me for that one. I hate that board. That board is just, it's so dumb. The Scotto 69 is so dumb. It's such a dumb board. It's just too many keys. Like, I've been using the 44 for a while now. I really like that one. I haven't done many builds this year, but yeah, I don't like big boards. I like the tiny boards. This is actually Ian. This is a very good point. Your local makerspace can help with 3D printing normally. So yeah, actually a lot of makerspaces, a lot of colleges, a lot of libraries, they'll have ways you can go in. I think sometimes they'll charge for their print time, but there are ways to do that. You can do that where you can go to like some local places and get 3D prints. There are also online services and stuff also. Joe, can I have your reaction to the C-13X keyboard? Let's take a look here. C-13X. Oh, let me actually discuss this board, because this one is neat that that he brings it up. Actually, this is what I actually used for inspiration for the Scotto Katana. This is how I kind of figured out how a gasket mount works. This was by Flurples. Let me see if I have the. This one was very helpful, actually, like, looking at the design. Yeah, this is, I think it was gasket mounted, right? Yeah. This is what kind of showed me how a gasket mount works. So this was a big, cool board to look at. The layout is kind of whatever, but it does exist. My small town doesn't have a single makerspace, and the closest one has crazy prices. What are the prices like there? Because I have no idea. Those look like QMK keycaps. What do you mean? Does QMK have official keycaps? Does QMK have official keycaps? Is that a thing? They just made space for it there. This is kind of like the... What is it? It's kind of like, not that. Like the UT47, what it does here is it kind of does the same thing. You can kind of push your layout over is all. The membership is $30 a month, and you had to pay for prints afterwards, like 10 times the price of filament alone. Yeah, that's expensive for a makerspace. That's really expensive. Oh, GMK. Okay, yeah. My mistake. I see it. Yeah. GMK keycaps. I hate GMK keycaps. I think they use ABS, so they always get shiny, if I remember right. I mean, I use I use my own keycaps on all my stuff anyway. Like these on here, obviously, are my own. These on here, my own. My Scotto wing I'm using here, also my own. So I just kind of use my own on everything. I literally haven't built a build in probably a year that has used, maybe longer actually, that has used. Actually, we could probably look on my website. Let's take a look. I have to plug this back in. We can look on here and actually, yeah, well, maybe this one, September 3rd, 2024, I use those. I don't think that counts as much, though. Yeah, literally like a year, like any of my real handwire boards, I haven't used, like, real keycaps. I've just used my own, even on, like, my macro pads. Oh, yeah, I did release this one, actually. I forgot. I released the Scotto 16, just kind of a hidden release. Forgot to mention this one. I did this, this was a commission build for someone, but I did release it. It's just a 16 key macro pad, nothing, like, fancy. Just kind of exists. Printed some keycaps in Pet G that I plan to use in the Scottofly build. I think you've been saying you're going to build a Scottofly for a long time, right? I think, or was that someone else? See you later, Andy. Yeah, I hope it goes well too, actually. I hope it does go well, because we'll see how it is. I know it's on the second floor of the event. So it's like on the second floor of the event, so it probably won't be like all the people there. But, you know, I don't normally do stuff live in front of an audience. It's a little different doing it here, because, like, there's 40 people watching me right now, which will probably be similar to what's there. It's just different when there's the people in front of you, you know? I don't think I'll, like, have an issue. I think I'll be fine, because I like talking about this, but, we'll see. Technical difficulties might be the problem, depending on what I wire. I have to remember to get, I have a cable I have to bring, and I have to bring another cable, and probably bring a computer and an iPad just to have double backup, just so I'm good to go. But, yeah. Anyway, we've been going for like exactly an hour. I have a printed prototype board I'm bringing. Hope I can get good feedback. Oh, yeah, let me see it. Are you, Jay, are you the one in Rochester? I know Astrom was from Rochester, but I swear, Jay, I could swear. What are the lengths of stands you usually use on sandwich builds? This one here is 6mm. Normally I use 8mm, so the ones in here are 8mm standoffs. Glitches in Rochester, yes. Yes, I remember that too. Yeah, there's like a bunch of people around here. It's just not a strong enough community to kind of have anything local. Pizza Joe, can you react to my sort of new keyboard in general? Possibly. Let's take a look here. Let me see if I want to react to it. Let's take a look. It's already got a downvote. Sorry, Pizza. I'm sorry. No. You need to make a hand-wired. You can't. Yeah, what Sandra's saying here, that, yeah, it looks like, literally, I think I've seen this exact board at, like, Five Below, like the Buka combo. we gotta get Pizza build here. We gotta get him one. Oh yeah, Astrom's in Arizona. Yeah, that's kind of brutal. What's the weather like there right now? What's the temperature? Thanks, Ans507. I am excited for it. Surprisingly, it's only 84 at the moment. Not bad. It is currently 72 out here, which isn't terrible. So that's not bad. But, yeah. Anyway, it's like 2 o'clock now. I only wanted to run this for like an hour. We had a little Q&A. I think the presentation should go well. It seems like it has a good timing on it, which is pretty good. I may or may not have to fix that slide. We'll see if I fix it or not. I think that the math is right there, right? You square the division. So, like, if you have 28 divided by 2 raised to the second. 196. Yeah, that's right. So that's fine. That's the math works on that slide. So anyway, guys, I am gonna head out now because I have stuff I want to do when it is nice out also. But tomorrow we will be building this. We will be building this tomorrow, maybe Thursday, depending on what happens. But I have to leave Friday, so either tomorrow or the next day I will be live streaming the build of this. It should not take too long. YouTuber pose. Is that good? Oh, with the Scotto frog? There you go. Joe, you should visit Clay and Uncle Jesse sometime since you're both in Rochester. You'd have the blast with the 3D print stuff. I have actually, not Astrums, yeah. I've considered doing this, reaching out to Uncle Jesse. Maybe if a bunch of people like tag Uncle Jesse and tag me, because he's only like an hour and a half away from me. Like, maybe he has a crazy resin printer. We can do like a crazy resin print keyboard collaboration. That would be kind of cool. Yeah, I have homework for people. Everyone tag Uncle Jesse and tell him to reach out to me. Everyone tag him. go spam Uncle Jesse with me to build or work together, collab. I've been watching Uncle Jesse for a long time too. Before the 3D printing stuff, I remember. Well, not 3D printing stuff, before the hand-wired keyboards is what I mean. But yeah. Anyway, guys, I am gonna head out now. Idle Hams, he's a buddy of mine then? Yeah, hit me up actually. I don't know what we could collab on, but yeah. Yeah, Uncle Jesse's in Rochester. He mentioned that in a video once, and I was like, what the hell? Either in a video or a post I saw, I was like, oh, he's like an hour and a half from me. But yeah, anyway, I'm gonna head out now. It's 2 o'clock my time. Pizza, I know, Pizza, you're in Italy, right? I think you're in Italy. Am I right on that? I think I remember. So, yeah, anyway, I'm heading out because I am also hungry. It is nice out. I have other things to do. This last one, thanks to your video, I'm not designing my own PCB. You're welcome. Post it in the Discord if you want to, like, share that. But, yeah, I'm heading out. Thanks for hanging out, guys. I hope my stream goes well because, or my talk, I think it will. I feel pretty confident about it. We still have it on here. Keycon 2025.